All right, guys. So I have a very special guest today. By the way, his name is Joe McCarthy. Actually, have an introduction for him. He's a young entrepreneur, by the way, just because I've also done my own little checking on him. He's scaled about 1,500 brands. You get me? His audience, he really knows how to engage with them. It's very organic. Joe, you're 18 years old, you get me, and you're doing stuff more than some of the guys that I guess are like 50, 60. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you please. I see you like reading a lot of books there. Napoleon Hill, I'm big on him. I've gone
Yeah,
through Cardinal University and like a lot of the big sales training programs, straight line, up everything, a lot of that. We're both really young, man. So tell me about yourself, some of the things that you've been able to do.
yeah, brother. Yeah, I appreciate the introduction as well and this opportunity. But yeah, I mean, I grew up on a farm, believe it or not. So I was like, 6 years old. Started selling simple things like chicken and eggs and beef and stuff like that. But the thing is I had the product, but I didn't really have a customer base. So I was struggling doing like these, old tactics, putting up signs and trying to like, put out flyers to try to get like, customers to actually buy my products. Because again, I had the product, I just didn't have, that clientele, right? So I was struggling and I was getting frustrated and I was young, so I didn't really know what I should do. And then around that time, I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. I came across Facebook and Instagram. And so I actually started to grow, a page for both Facebook and Instagram for my farm. I grew those to like 2 or 3 thousand followers each within a few
Sweet.
months. And then within like a couple weeks, I was literally just selling out of all my products using marketing on my farm. So like I kind of realized it clicked in my head like I could use social media for a ton of different things. Like this is a super powerful tool. Like I'm selling out of all my products. I'm young and none of this other stuff was working, but this social media thing is really doing its job, right? So around that time, I was also getting introduced to business and entrepreneurship because it's kind of interesting. I'm into sustainable farming, and then there's this guy named Joel Salatin who actually mentored Ty Lopez. I'm sure you know who Ty
I've
Lopez
heard of
is.
I've heard of Joe Salatin as his mentor. Yeah.
Exactly. So I've actually met Joel Salatin personally a couple times,
Sweet.
and I actually got introduced to Ty Lopez and all the business world, and he's big on reading. So like obviously you see all the books back there. When I was like 12, 13, I read over 50 entrepreneurship, business books, leadership books. I just got immersed in this, entrepreneurship
How
journey.
many books have you read until now, if you had to share? I
I
read a
mean,
couple hundred.
I honestly I stopped counting after like 112. So like I've probably read like at least 200 by now. I also like to listen
Yeah.
to audiobooks. So even
Yeah.
this isn't even like half of what I actually have because I listen to a lot of books like, while I'm working out or on the road. So I've probably read at least like 200. I'm definitely big on reading. That's a
Likewise.
huge key, right? So yeah, I mean, I kind of just got into entrepreneurship and then I kind of found a niche in social media. I actually took a couple courses, started really researching and doing my
Sweet.
due diligence and actually learning branding and marketing and stuff like that. And then I was probably like 15 or 16. It was a few years back. I started my agency called Gem Media, which is my initials. People don't actually realize that, but yeah, those are my initials, Gem Media. And I started that,
What's your
started
middle name?
Edward. So
I knew
J.
it.
Yeah. So
Let's
yeah,
go.
essentially, took that name, grew it, helped probably like almost 2,000 people by now, grew my social media. I'm also partnered with Grow This Agency. So that's another growth agency. We basically help people get more exposure, get more leads, following, engagement, organically, stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I just help people brand themselves because again, I feel like a lot of people, they have good products and services, they just don't know how to get that out to more people, right? And social media is a huge tool to actually capitalize on to reach tens of thousands of people. So me and my
Right.
my team just help people, get their stuff out to more people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. I'm happy we built the relationship, by the way. I think we connected online through IG,
Yep. Yep.
and I'm big on courses. So I took one for like Facebook advertising, and now that I finally started coming into money, because Napoleon Hill usually tell you, it usually just comes in all at once when you're ready for it. You get me. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So marketing, you get me, is I'm probably gonna start buying some of those courses and such. And if you have any products, I'd potentially be interested. You seem like you've helped a lot of brands. I think 1,500. I was checking your
Mm-hmm.
stuff out. A lot of those people follow you. Yeah, so I'd be interested in potentially growing my Instagram more, just because the podcast, by the way, we usually have it set up in the room. It's
Mm-hmm.
Saturday today, and I have a couple of stuff that I'm redoing in the office. It's all about mindset, developing a successful mindset, because most people will just go through traditional education.
Mm,
Jim Rohn will tell you, get me traditional education, it'll make you a living. Self-education though, that's really where it's at.
exactly.
People you meet, the people that you connect with, just in generally whoever it might be, right? I know you met like I think like Joe Salatin, or
Yep.
was that his name? Which is badass. Ty Lopez's mentor. So how did you meet him? I guess in your journey, you get me, and you started getting into Facebook around 8 and 9 years old, getting
Mhm.
really creative. You get me, and taking action, which
Yep.
is critical, essentially.
Yeah. So I actually met Joe Salatin. I've been to his farm a couple of times. I was fortunate to actually live like 2 hours away from him. So like I've
That is
been to his
so cool,
farm.
man. That probably changed your life, right?
It was, yeah, it's amazing because like he also has like a lot of good knowledge like in his head. Believe it or not, like he's in farming, but like there's so many different lessons that he teaches through his books, through like his courses and stuff like that, and just general knowledge like him on podcasts. Like he actually, you can see like how Ty Lopez learned certain things from him, because like he has a lot of knowledge. So I got to meet him at his farm, and also been to a couple conferences that he's spoken at, about farming and sustainability, stuff like that. So I met him there, talked to him a little bit, and then obviously that kind of just drew me into the business world. And like you said, taking action, that's the biggest key ever, because like so many people, they have these ideas. I always say like, an idea is kind of like a commodity. Everyone has ideas. Everyone has the next great big thing, right? But action and actually implementation is where it's actually going to make a difference, right? Like there's so many ideas, but when it comes down to actually taking action, that's what's going to make or break, your success.
What are some moments, I guess, for you that you've learned through like failure and feedback? If you want, we could actually go back and forth just because I think we're relatively young and we probably have like a bunch of allies because we're the young guys and they'll look up to us, you get me, or they'll say that you guys are future leaders.
Mhm.
Being your episode, you get me, and having a lot of things in common, essentially. What are some things that you think that began to shape your mindset like that? I know reading's huge, you get me, just because it's like just unlock stuff. I think Brian Tracy grew up similar to you, and like
Mhm.
now we all know who Brian Tracy is. So I'm really happy to have you on today. What would some of those things be that were like changing your mindset in moving that direction? Because you probably had something around 8 or 9. Like when you were young, you probably felt like you were destined to just do big things or something like that. Just because you get me,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So I
Yeah,
think I think ultimately, like probably when I was again like 8 or 9 years old, I started selling these products. It kind of showed me that like you can make a living by selling your own thing, and that kind of just transferred into me actually starting my own marketing business, which I started selling about 2017, I guess you could say. So that kind of transformed my mindset, and then also reading and investing in myself. I'm actually really big on investing in myself, whether it's coaching or courses, stuff like that. You hear people like Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, Jordan Belfort. They all say like invest in yourself
Brian
because you're a
Tracy,
great asset. Brian
Napoleon
Tracy,
Hill,
point. They all
some of the
say it.
OGs.
And I always say success leaves clues, right? Like if all
Yeah.
these successful people are saying like, hey, do this, do that, it really works. You should probably take that advice, right? So there's a consistent theme is investing in yourself. You're your biggest asset. That's what I think Warren Buffett says. So like I've just been big into investing in myself, whether it's coaching, reading books, listening to podcasts, business conferences, just the whole 9 yards. And I feel like
Likewise.
that's what's actually transformed my mindset, and obviously the income as well, just as a default.
Right. For me, it's high ticket sales and the exact same thing like with you. Because a lot of the time, most people around us, they don't have this success mindset where they're like investing in books or you get me. You might have even had professors telling you, dude,
Yeah.
you're an idiot for reading those books. They don't work. Go do this. It's like, no, man. I mean, I'm making more money than some of my professors now already this year just because
Exactly.
it's a
I was
six
I was
figure
actually
job.
making more money than my teachers in high school. It's kind of funny.
No
Like my
freaking way. That's
yeah,
badass. You have to tell me about that. That's huge, bro.
exactly. Yeah, and then the teachers were always saying like, yeah, you got to go to college, get your degree so you can be successful, blah 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 blah. But little did they know I was probably making a lot more than them, even in high school, senior year especially.
How did you
And
do that, by the way? Because I could never figure it out in high school. I was like, I'm just gonna learn sales and eventually it's gonna click.
yeah, I got in early. So I think, especially I actually just graduated. So like last year, I think was the biggest year for me. And that's where I really started to grow my Instagram, really start to
But you love
grow
the real world, right?
the
You're like,
brand.
finally, we're done with high school.
exactly. I'm so pumped
Even
I'm
though you're
out.
probably
Like
popular there because you were making
I was
money or
thinking
whatever it
like
might have
I
been.
was thinking like at first I was thinking about college, but I kind of knew that I didn't want to go. And I just got out of school, right? So the last thing I want to do is go back into school for 4 more years and waste more time, get a degree. It's fine if you know why you're doing it, but I know that I can dominate, with or without it. But in high school, I kind of knew I
Absolutely.
was
I have a
hoping.
diploma, by the way. I went to negotiations mastery. You get
Ah,
me?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
but it's a $1,600 program. You get me? I finished it. I passed everything, and it's a diploma. So I am a graduate from that, and it's a diploma.
I love
It's a
it. Yeah.
diploma.
And
It's
I
kind of how
got,
I got the six-figure job. It helped a lot. Really polished everything.
yeah, and I got an
The
MBA,
lubricant.
a massive bank account.
There we go, man. And that being a diploma, and that's something that I went 6 years because I wanted to get real life professors. You got me from whatever ways because we were talking before we even started the podcast. Yeah, I think self education is just like the best thing possible. And people like that usually run everybody's stuff. Like Brad Lee, he's about to hit 100 million. We talk every single Tuesday. You got me. Another guy for sales and leadership. He doesn't have a degree. He has a high school. I don't even think he has a high school diploma.
I don't even know.
He may or may not. I'm not sure. He doesn't have a
Yeah.
degree though. Yeah,
I know he definitely doesn't have a good degree. I actually just
but hit
messaged
100
him a
mil.
bit ago. I messaged him on Instagram. I think I'm gonna try to get on dropping bombs at some point soon. That would
He
be
probably
super.
will be, man. He loves young guys. He
Yeah.
follows a lot of my friends. We're, yeah. I've been
Were you
trying
gonna
to get
drop
him to follow me
bombs?
back,
Were you
man.
gonna drop your bombs? Is that like a goal of yours?
It'll probably happen just because me and him, we have a great relationship. Just because every time that he's given me an assignment, I go out. He helped me get the six-figure job. Like
Sweet.
last Tuesday, I went. I'm like, Mr. Lee, I'm back. He's like, you're back and all. I'm like, I told you, man, I'm gonna come back when I get the. We had like a whole little conversation just between us
That's
there. It
awesome.
was
That's
it was
awesome.
dope. It was dope. Yeah, man. What the heck? It's like these guys are older than us. You got me. They're gonna help us become more successful by
Yeah.
being the best version of who we are, pouring into ourselves. You get me, and becoming people of value, connecting with other people essentially that are around there. That helped me build my network a lot. Because
Hmm.
when I was around Brad Lee, I got to meet a lot of his friends.
Oh
You get
yeah,
me
yeah.
because of the proximity. Proximity. You know what proximity is, right? Just because like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay. So because of proximity, you get me,
Close
and
to
like just
them.
following. And he'll tell us a lot of the time that success is predictable. You get me. Like action will cause like result. So that takes a lot. And then Brian Tracy even has a book called, the luck factor.
Right.
Success, you get me. It's literally you just there's formulas and recipes to it
Yeah,
to get
exactly.
consistent, predictable results. Whether it's picking up a girl, closing a high ticket sale,
Mhm.
helping people make more money because I've already done that for other people, and now you have an XYZ, XYZ, XYZ.
Yeah,
In our
I think
in our
that
in our specialized knowledge.
yeah, community I think is definitely a big thing, like networking, because they say like your network is your net worth. So like if you're
Yeah,
networking with these high ticket clients, if you're networking with these really high end, entrepreneurs and business
it rubs
owners,
off.
it rubs off on you, and then you're the average of the five people you hang around, right? So if you're hanging around super high net worth level, individuals, you're going to become one of those. But if you're hanging around five bums, you're probably going to be the next bum, right? So it's all about your network.
Drop some knowledge, man, because you're the kind of guy that likes to like ask questions and listen. I'm the same kind of guy, and since you're a guest, man, I mean, geez.
No,
Drop some.
I'm usually the one asking questions. I'm not really
I
usually
get
the
it.
spotlight. I'm gonna grab a charger real quick. I'm about to
Do your thing.
die.
Do your thing. I'm gonna pause it, and then we're gonna get you back right now. Ah, it's like you
All
never had to
right.
get the charger. All right, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I could say. Like I have just a whole plethora of, tips and tricks and stuff like that. I think for the younger audience, especially, the one thing I'd say is, stop caring about other people's opinions. I feel like that's one of the main thing that, kind of, it's a big roadblock, right? It's a big roadblock when it comes to actually them taking action and starting their idea, or starting their business, or starting their, journey, because they think that they have to go do what everyone else does. They have to graduate, they have to go to college, get in debt, get a degree, work a 9 to 5 job, buy a fancy house. So I would tell them, if you have a dream, if you know you're destined for more, don't be like everybody else. Don't care what everyone else thinks. Go chase that dream. Go do what you think you're meant to do. Because obviously, if you know that you have potential, which everyone does, then I think it's only right that you actually go strive for that. And you caring what other people think is, a detriment to you, and it's a detriment to all the potential people that you'd help. So I'd say, try to stop caring what everyone thinks. And I just say go for it, Because at the end of the day, once you actually start, like for me personally, when I started creating videos, I was super insecure about, you
Likewise.
know,
Just go
yeah,
really back on my Instagram.
yeah, like I can remember how nervous I was. I was like, what are these people thinking? So once you start, you kind of get used to it. You kind of get better at it. So I feel like number one is just don't care what people think, and number two is just take action, actually start and implement. Because once you actually start, it just builds up this confidence and this momentum, and then I think that's when you actually start to see those tangible results.
How much money are you making now yearly?
Yearly, it's kind of hard because like every month differs. Like I actually just moved out. So like for instance, the last month
I
I was
love
super
that.
busy.
I'm gonna do it again soon.
Yeah,
Hopefully by the end of this
I
year.
was busy trying to like get all this stuff ready for moving out. I just graduated high school. So in high school, obviously that was holding me back a ton because I was wasting 10 hours a day, with school and homework and all that crap. So I didn't make much there, probably like 40, 50K. And then now obviously I think I can easily double or triple that, and the next year I'm hoping to get at least 300K, which is a lot more than what my teachers were making. So it'll just grow steadily from there. And then I'll hopefully be like a millionaire by the time I'm 21. That's the goal at least. So yeah.
Or sooner, just because you're around like a lot of good people. I specialize in like systems and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, I've put in like my 10,000 hours pretty much and just studying like
Yeah.
if you name any of the big sales trainers, I've probably gone through like their course or their books. You get me? That's roughly around that's like my area of specialized knowledge. I didn't grow
Awesome.
up from wealth, to be honest with you. All this, um, you know, I finally got more used to it, but it's just like those paradigm shifts where you begin to like level up and like at
Mhm.
first it's exciting. You get me? Maybe like when you met Joe Salatin and then you met like another guy and then you met like another guy and then
Yeah.
you right and you begin to just I don't know. It's like you begin to just like when your inner reality changes, like the outside like starts to change and stuff.
Hmm. Yeah.
Essentially,
I think that comes down to mindset, right? Kind of like how you
that's
view
huge,
the
man.
world. Like,
That is huge.
mindset
It's
especially
huge.
is really, really, really huge. Like that I think is probably the number one dictator of like where you're actually going to be because you know again entrepreneurship is not exactly easy, right? Like you have hard days. It's sometimes hard to wake up in the mornings, like if you just work until like 2 or 3 a.m. it's hard to wake up. But like that bitch voice that I call it, in the back of your head saying like, yeah, go back to sleep. You kind of have to defeat that, right? You have to have this positive mindset, this mindset of like this drive, this fire, this passion. I think that definitely plays a huge role in actually getting places.
Absolutely, dude. And being around like-minded people who live life by the same, you get me, code of values, you get me,
Mm.
and standards of and passion of excellence, and really reaching higher levels always.
Exactly, exactly. So how did you get started in business
And
then?
I want to keep asking you more questions. Like it's like it's cool, man.
I'm
Um,
very curious. Yeah.
likewise, likewise. I've always been naturally good at connecting with people. Ever since I was like in kindergarten, I would use up what was called like the number two pencil, and I'd
Mm.
sell them as baby pencils because a lot of the girls, at the time you get me, they would always play with the dolls and all that, and they're like, "Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it's the baby pencil!" So I almost got kicked out of school for that. And it's just been up since there. Around fifth grade, I got bullied for whatever reason. I don't know why, but people were just really mean to me that year. And I got into reading because I had my principal at the time, who's very successful now in Miami. And a lot of the people just know him. He's very influential in like the board and all that. He
Mm.
follows my Instagram, which is really cool. And he got me into reading. So he around that time in fifth grade, we'll go back to this just now. I started moving towards like gangs and stuff like that because I wanted respect, I wanted identity, I wanted a self worth, I wanted all that. So between sixth grade to about freshman year in high school and all the way into my sophomore year, that my sophomore year is when I started getting my shit together. Same kind of energy that I have now with the people that I'm connecting. It's the same kind of energy that I put into the opposite, and I was connecting and I was thriving and I was one of the most successful people for my age up and coming in that field. So
Awesome.
same energy, same same all of that.
I love it. It's badass.
It is horrible. I love it too. We changed that. We got our life together. 15, 16, had a bad breakup. Started reading my first personal development book at 15, 16, 15, 16, 16, 15, like around there, 15 and a half. Coach Corey Wayne, How to Be a 3% Man. Okay. Changed my life, read it 10, 15 times, got me really good with girls. Um, I started reading other books like Robert Greene, so and so, and I just kept advancing my education. 18, I got into 16, 17, I got around Napoleon Hill. Um, had a lady from Northern Western Mutual because I was looking for answers. Um, she was making six figures at the time herself. Mark Twain, Men Who Built America, got into Napoleon Hill through that. And I've had like a lot of other various projects like failure, successes, and a lot of stuff that have shaped me overall. And
Mhm.
always taking action, always being intentional, always with God. I think, yeah, like my vision for the world is to make the globe success conscious so that everybody unlocks their minds and understands that everybody could become successful.
Yeah.
It's just it is predictable, it is. And once the bar keeps getting higher and higher and it gets more easy, just like the million mile or what, or the 100 mile, whatever it was, when it got
Mm.
broken in like a minute, more people are going to start doing it more and more and more, similar to like how we're doing it and how millionaires back then would be like 40 or 50, you get me, and they'd be older. Now they're like, in their 20s. I should be a millionaire if everything keeps going well.
Yeah.
I'm 22, by maybe even by the end of this year, just 23, because I can write scripts and everything just kind of just clicked at the same time with real estate, with everything, right? And just having self belief, knowing your stuff, and then really just keeping working with that until it cracks. And it's nicer to just have it, because
Mm.
from the other point, it's just an entrepreneur sharing a vision, even though they know it works for whatever reason, right? But
Exactly.
yeah, that's pretty much a lot of the story. I've invested in a lot of programs. I've had mentors from like some of the biggest guys in the world. Uh, and I still have relationships that are pretty close up there because of all that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, going back to like what you're saying
I
about,
want your story, man.
yeah,
I wrapped it up like really really briefly.
that was awesome. And like going back to like, what you're saying about the average millionaire, like I think there's a ton of potential these days. Like everyone has that potential to be an entrepreneur, be successful. Like you said, I think the age of the millionaires and billionaires, it's getting lower and lower each year. Like you have like that
Absolutely.
Ryan, I think his name is. He like does YouTube videos. He's like 12 or like maybe even younger, like 9 or 10. He's making millions off YouTube. Like there's so much opportunity these days with social media, with technology. Like every single person, like no matter like where you are, what you do, like you shouldn't have an excuse at this point. Like you can do pretty much anything and become a success. So yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that's a pretty dope story.
What's your story like, man? Because you were making six figures in high school.
In my high school years, it was really hard for me because, like, again, I was getting bullied a lot. Like every kid, pretty much. I didn't really have many friends either because, like, they all saw me as like an outcast. I was always different. I was always like challenging. I mean, to be fair, like I was always kind of like challenging them and kind of getting into like little arguments, saying like, why exactly are you going to college? Like, why don't you do this or that, right?
Thinking
Like
outside the box.
exactly. I was always the outside the box thinker, and they always had this mold that they all wanted to fit into, and just be like everybody else, do what everyone else did, play video games, whatnot. So, in eighth, ninth, 10th grade, I wasn't really popular. I was never really the popular kid, at least when it came to fitting in with everyone. Like they knew me as like the guy who made a ton of money, and they knew me as the guy who was completely different than them. But at the same time, like didn't really have many friends there, so I just focused completely into like business, and then that's when I started getting introduced to marketing and branding. I started really investing into myself because I had
It was
money saved
similar
up.
for me, by the way, but I would just sell everybody shit because they would
Exactly.
still buy from me because I
Here's
had
the
a
thing.
prodding.
I sold airheads in like when I was like I think eighth grade. I sold
Very
candy.
similar, by the way. Okay.
I sold a ton of candy. Sold airheads. I think I sold 1,000 airheads in a couple months, and I made like over $1,000. I think that was eighth or ninth grade, but that was like a big breakthrough for me. I was like, I'm just gonna sell everyone candy now because it's a bit high in demand, in high school. So I
Yeah.
just buy it, resell it for double the price, buy it in bulk, and then make a ton of money off of that. And that was just an easy side income that I was making passively, like in school. Everyone would come up to me and say like, hey, airhead man, can I have like 12 airheads? And they'd buy them for like 10, $15, and I just make some quick cash. But
Right.
yeah, I was always someone who would
Were you the kind of guy that you went to school only to collect money sometimes because you didn't want to show up because you were just like, I want to do other shit. Like, this is boring. And when you were in school, you probably listened to like audiobooks or whatever it was. And you
yeah,
like, when you weren't making money, obviously, because people were just buying shit from you.
Yeah, like
They
I
loved
was
you because and they loved
during
your product, and you
during
had
all
great service. Yeah,
the breaks, during all the lunch breaks and stuff like that, study halls,
right.
like I'd go into the bathroom, I'd text, I'd, respond to all my business messages, I'd send
You
out
were you
messages.
weren't sitting in lunch either. You were just like moving around. Like,
Always.
okay,
I
cool.
was never just sitting there, never ever, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every single lunch break, like almost every single one, maybe one, but that's it. But aside from that one, because you were watching a Steve Jobs interview, like every other single one, you were like selling shit.
Exactly. And the annoying thing is I actually drive an hour to school every single morning, an hour back. So what I would do is I'd listen to audiobooks, listen to podcasts, listen to
Mhm.
interviews like this one, stuff like that, just to build up my knowledge as I was driving to and from school, right? So even then, in eighth, ninth, 10th grade, or I think it was 10th to 12th grade, which is when I actually had my license, I'd start to listen to podcasts and stuff. And even, in my younger years when I would like ride on the bus, right? I would listen to stuff like on my headphones, not music and not rap like, all the other kids. I was listening to, podcasts and books and stuff like that that I
Likewise.
actually was, training my brain for success.
So how'd you break six figures in high school, man? Because like I didn't like officially finally break that until like now. We're making. So how did you do that in high school? Because
Yeah.
that's like, dude, what the
So
heck? And when did you start reading your first books? Because you got into like Facebook and all that when you're like 8, 9 years old. It's like what's
yeah,
up with that?
10
Yeah,
years old is when I started reading my first success books. So like I think from 10 years old to 15 years old, I started reading probably at least 50 of those books. And obviously by now it's been over a couple hundred. In six figures, I didn't actually have like $100,000 before I graduated, but I was making like a six-figure income, which I think is like,
sixth
88
grade
hundred.
years.
Yeah, exactly. So like
What the heck, Joe?
I
That's
was
about.
after,
Why aren't you a millionaire yet, man?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I think it was high school and driving an hour to school. It was that time. And now that I'm out, like it's been like 2 or 3 months that I'm out. I'm doubling my income each month almost because like I'm super driven and I have that extra time,
Yeah,
right? So hopefully I'll be a millionaire by 21, but I think the goal is
you probably
maybe
will, man. Maybe sooner.
maybe sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you might just be able to invest in something, and then boom, your agency blows up very quickly through referrals. You get me and a bunch of other such together. If you need help, by the way, with anything like afterwards, I'm gonna give you my phone number. I want you to text me if you please. I just want to stay in touch. Hope you're open to that yourself. And just what we could do. Um, I'm really good with like when it comes to sales scripts and such.
Mm.
Um, if you want, I'll even create a couple of scripts for you for free, just because I want you to become a millionaire. My dream was to become a millionaire when I was like 21. I'm pissed off because it took me to be so like I'm 22 or 23 now. Hey, Joe, you
Sometimes
started
it
way
takes time.
earlier off. You get me. So I'm like
Yeah.
I'm rooting for you. I want you to hit that if it's possible like 19 or 20, like speeding it up like that 9 year old that fucking is a millionaire already. Like freaking hey man, that's badass. Let's level up. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to stay connected because I mean, obviously connections are everything. So we'll stay connected and I definitely think we could both benefit each other. Like we're both obviously providing a ton of value right here. And off camera, I definitely think we'll even provide even more value. So yeah, we'll stay
Yeah.
connected.
You guys should all follow Joe, by the way. You should send him some money on PayPal or something, or become one of his clients. That'd be badass.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
For all the
content, just
value that's being brought, man.
content. Yeah. Just look at some of the content I got, try to learn some stuff from me if you can, because I'm all about providing that value and making an impact at the end of the day.
So you started reading your first book when you were like 10 years old. You shared, and around sixth grade, you broke six figures. Is that what it was?
Oh, whoa, whoa, no, 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 not sixth grade. I think you misheard.
Okay,
I had broke six figures around 12th grade. So
okay.
throughout high
Love that.
school, I was making a consistent income, building up to that basically. But then
So I want to
in
hear that
12th
story,
grade,
man.
yeah. So I think with the fourth to sixth grade, I was just selling farm products, which would make me like a small amount of money per month. I was kind of like getting used to
Badass.
making money. Then sixth to ninth grade, probably like around the time where I was coming into high school, I was selling candy, I was selling the farm products, and I actually started getting into the branding and the marketing. And then that's when I started my agency. I actually didn't make any money from the agency the first like 4 or 5 months, but building up to that, probably 10th through 12th grade, that's where it really started to boom. I was selling, a ton of different products, different services, a couple different packages. Like I closed a deal for like, how much was it? There was $12,000. So I closed a $12,000 deal before I graduated, right before I
Dude, that is
graduated.
freaking huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's kind of what really drove me to start hitting six figures, obviously, because I think six figures is 8,400 a month. So obviously that's what I'm making consistently. But in high school, I think that 12K close that I got really pumped me up because obviously that momentum just started
It just
building.
shattered a bunch of glass ceilings. Your freaking self-worth, your confidence went through the roof. It's like, fuck you bitches, I can do even more now.
Exactly, exactly,
Cool,
exactly.
cool.
So that's huge. That's huge for me
Yeah, yeah,
personally.
yeah. So you got that and you started breaking like the $12,000 sale, and then what was next after that? Because everything was building its momentum towards like its six figures. Because in success,
Mhm.
how it's built on success, you get me, and then it starts getting addicting. Like,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah,
After that, I took that money. I started investing in, my brand. I invested in a couple other things, and I built my following. Obviously grew. I think I'm at like 70 or 80K.
almost
Um,
80,000 followers
yeah,
online.
I'm hoping to hit 100K in the next like one or
Yeah,
2 months, just to break that record. And then obviously I'm hoping to consistently sell higher and higher packages. I think we really don't even do at our agency. We don't actually do higher than like 13K. So I really broke the record there. So I'll just consistently start to close higher ticket deals. I'm sure you obviously know a lot about high ticket closes and stuff. So,
I paid a
you know,
lot of people a lot of money, man.
yeah,
I told myself it's finally my turn to start making money, dude. Jeez. Yeah,
exactly,
bro.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, obviously momentum is a huge thing. So hopefully it'll just keep scaling up. And like I said, millionaire by 21 at least, maybe sooner is the goal.
Yes.
And hopefully just keep closing bigger deals because that's obviously the goal.
I think that's something that a lot of people could use. They don't understand that a rising tide, one, raises all ships, but two, when you're extremely excited about others, you end up becoming more successful like in a fraction of the time. Call it the universe, call it the energy, call it, you get me, whatever it is. And then
Mhm.
when you start assisting them, you get me, and you start helping them with whatever they might need assistance with, somebody else just comes into your life, you get me, and they start helping you for whatever reason.
Exactly.
Could be a bunch of different things, but just in general, because I think Napoleon Hill talks about it, and he does, by the way. And then with the law of compensation, how everything just stacks up, going the extra mile, and these little things that most people don't do, and attitude, you get me, and the difference between a negative one and a positive one, which is
Mhm.
just the difference between people and their mindsets a lot of the time, and the difference that can make in their individual lives. Like one has integrity, is highly charismatic, and he has a lot of enthusiasm. Then another one is just like down, you get me,
Exactly.
like and then hopefully, this guy is making a video with another guy that's like, oh my gosh, he freaking made a $12,000 sale in high school, which is what the heck? It's amazing. And they start following Joe, you get me, and stuff like that, because of association and whatnot.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's why I think following the right people is really, really key because like there's a lot of people on Instagram. First of all, they may be fake people or they may give you bad advice, but then obviously there's other people who just aren't
You're the real
helping.
deal, Joe. I could tell. Yeah,
I appreciate it. Yeah, that's why I'm called the real Joe McCarthy on Instagram. I try to be
the
as
real
real as I
Brad
can,
Lee.
be authentic. Yeah, I saw real Brad Lee, and I really like that username. And then again, someone took Joe McCarthy, so I was like, oh crap, now I have to figure something else out. So I was like, real Joe McCarthy, and I stuck with that. So that's definitely a big thing is following the right people on social media. Just that's a start, right? Just go follow me, follow you, Grant Cardone, Jordan Belfort, Ed Milet, Tom Bilyeu. There's a ton of great
Zig
people.
Ziglar.
Zig
Tom
Ziglar.
Bilyeu's the man, dude.
He's huge.
I
He's
like him.
huge. I love him. I love him. Yeah. All these people, they're providing a lot of value and it's free, right? If you go follow them on social media, what does it cost you? Nothing. So, the least you can do is give them a follow and look at some of their content, right?
Either courses sometimes. Go in
Yeah,
deeper.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'm big on that.
Joe, is there anything else that I guess you kind of like want to go into that have been like game changing for you in mindset or such? Just because you get me, I want the audience because I know you have a lot of nuggets of wisdom, reading hundreds of books. You get me, and that being in itself something that most people and I mean, you're gonna learn a thing off learning a lot of those. And it's funny because I'm not sure if this has been like you as well, but a lot of those books start clicking at the same time and you
Mhm.
start building a solid foundation, and then everything just starts building on each other even more as we build our like realities, our mindsets, and we start developing it, whatever it might be, just all together. And it's unique for everybody. That's the beautiful part. And we meet people. I'm not sure if you're Christian or not, but the Bible is always talking about like
Mhm.
iron sharpening iron. You get
Yeah.
me? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Tyler has actually taled about that in one of his podcasts recently. I heard that and that definitely clicked with me because, again, like the people who you associate with, who you follow, who you read, it makes a huge impact, right?
it does. It does at an unconscious level.
Exactly.
Is there any more like nuggets that you want to drop for these guys? You get me in story and books that you'd recommend, and like things that have just been game changing for you. You get me, and being able to present. You get me some of your best, like parts of your story, essentially?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think with books specifically, the best books I've read, some of like the first ones would be like Napoleon Hill, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then with Grant Cardone, I really love the 10X rule, just that mindset, 10X everything. Like I had a goal of getting to 10K on Instagram by my 19th birthday, but now I'm 10Xing and getting to 100K. So 10X rule, I think, is a huge book. I love that book. And then once you start to kind of get into, selling stuff, I actually have the Closer's Guide, the Survival Guide. So I bought that one, and that's been a huge one. So I recommend that one. Other than that, I'd say, again, going back to like one of my first points is actually taking action and actually implementation, I think is really the first thing. So like if you have an idea, if you have a business, if you have content that you want to put out, maybe just read like a ton of books like I did, and you want to actually share that on social media, I would say, you may have doubts. You may think like in the back of your mind, like, what are these people going to think? But I'd say like, go for it, because I think the fear of regret should be a lot higher than the fear of what are people going to think, right? Because like at the end of your life, your deathbed, you're not going to want to be like,
Right.
I wish I had done this, right? I think the regret factor is something that people really need to start to kind of
Really
come to.
internalize, you get
Yeah,
me, at a
exactly.
level where it's just like, yeah,
Exactly.
100%. Do you want to do you want to do you want to dive deeper on that one by any chance? Just like, because I
Let's
want to
do it.
pick your mindset myself, and
Yeah,
the audience is going to get value regardless.
100%. Yes, do it.
So going deeper on like regret for yourself, you get me, like what would your vision be like before you die? Like you're just like, I want to be able to create a lot of these things before I die, because I know I'm here for a limited amount of time. You get me? And
Mhm.
these are the things that I want to contribute and add to the world. And just giving before, you get me, I transcend and I'm called home, whenever that is,
Yeah. So
essentially.
I think like at the end of my life, what I want like impact wise is to help at least 100,000 people kind of build their brands, get more credibility so that they can get their stuff out to more people. Because for me personally, when I was young, when I was just starting out in my
Or more.
marketing agency branding course thing, right? Like again, like I said, I had like 4 months where I actually didn't make any money. And I think it was because of the lack of branding that I had. So that's why I'm super passionate in actually branding and marketing, especially with social media and Instagram, which is why I'm, passionate about actually helping thousands of others build their social media to get their stuff out to more people. So for me personally, at the end of my life, I want to be known as the guy who helped, hundreds of thousands of people brand themselves so that they could make an impact. Because there's something, I don't know if you know who David Meltzer is, but he actually says, I want to impact 1 million people, but all I have to do is I need to impact 1,000 people to impact for them to impact 1,000 people. So he's just trying to get 1,000 people to impact another 1,000, and obviously 1,000 times 1,000, or the million,
It's a
right? So like
compound effect, and
exactly.
it ripples on itself with momentum.
So I want to help hundreds of thousands of people make it their impact by selling their stuff with branding, if that makes sense.
Yes. 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 And what would you say, like, I guess, drives you towards that, like, essentially? Because I'm sure it's like from a place of like service and like gratitude, and like, because you just come off as that kind of guy. You get me, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I'm super. I am a Christian, so like I'm big on service, big on
God
making an
bless, man. In
impact.
Jesus' name, bro. I love the Holy Spirit. We have a great
Exactly,
relationship.
exactly. So like I'm super big on like just helping people, because like you can never really go wrong with helping someone, and it always kind of comes back. Like I'm big on like um what's it called? It's kind of like karma, but it's like the opposite. So like you do something bad, usually it comes back. I'm kind of like the opposite. If you do something good, it's bound to like come back and kind of you get something out of that, right? So that's one reason why I'm
Right.
super big on giving to receive, right? And then another thing is just like you helping other people, they're able to help another 1,000 people. So it's just this compound effect, and that's how I feel like you're gonna make the world a better place at the end of the day.
How have you been able to share that part, the giving and receive, without it being selfish sometimes when you share it to other people? Because it's true, by the way, when you are helping other people, they are getting the better stick of the deal for whatever reason, just because it's like that. But like, yeah, if like in
It's
presenting
hard.
that
It's hard.
or
You got
sharing that idea, you get me, while
Yeah,
along the
you
way.
gotta find a balance, right? Like, I mean, obviously, you don't want to give too much for free, because then they don't really value it. Because there's something that like Ty Lopez says is like you have to kind of get them to pay so that they pay attention. So like if you give out a
A little bit
course,
of skin in the game.
Exactly. So if you get out of course and it's free, they're not going to take it seriously. If you get out of course and it's $300 or $400, they're going to want to actually learn. So that's why there's a balance. You don't want to charge too much where you're too greedy and no one can afford it, but you don't want to charge too little to where you're kind of devaluing, your service and kind of their impact, because then they won't actually implement it, right? So I guess it's just about finding that balance, charging the right amount, not being too greedy, but also giving enough so that they want to, come back and share it with their friends, if that makes sense.
It does. And I got that originally from Napoleon Hill. With Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealth strategies that I got, because I really study his stuff like a lot, is that he himself, when it came to steel, one of the reasons he was like a tycoon, and we even remember him, is that he kept raising the value of his product and service, and he lowered the price. You get me? Obviously, he
Yeah.
didn't give it away, but he lowered it. You get me? You get me? What the value? He eventually everybody he became the only guy in town pretty much, and he was giving great service. There was Charles M. Schwab, where he gave him, I believe that was the exact one, $1 million just because of his PMA, and positive mental attitude, the attitude that he had with the employees, essentially, and them able to perform more, working with like Carnegie and that association.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
uh,
legendary. I think that's a legendary thing. That's why he's so successful, right? That's why he was probably one of the richest people in his time.
is there any more like nuggets you want to like drop, you want to dive into, you want to share, you want to like just contribute? You get me, like for the guests and audience. I know we've gone through a lot of stuff together, by the way, and we'll wrap up the episode in like a little bit. But I know you have like a lot of knowledge, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
and the way you see the world, you get me, and
Mhm.
you might you may or may not already be the best at articulating it or getting even better at it. I'm always getting better. I'm not even where I want to be like at all. Period. I think I'm amazing, by the way, my charisma. But what would some things be if you have any final words for like the guests, anything that you want to like just like share essentially like whatever it might be.
Hmm.
You're super charismatic, by the way, Joe.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think kind of touching on that is being yourself, right? Don't try to copy other people because they can actually read through that, right? So,
Right.
maybe you'll find a good nugget or two in some other people's content. You can kind of spin that and make it your own. But at the end of the day, you got to be like your true self, right? I think being authentic, Gary Vee talks about that all the time. Napoleon Hill, you have to be who you really are, right? Like, don't try to be someone else. Don't try to, copy other people because you're going to be caught. And then people actually kind of read through that. So I think
Yeah.
people really like to see you and not just the highlight reel. They also like to see the struggles. So like, if you just had some, failure or letdown, maybe share that on social media, right? Don't just show, this highlight reel, because then people actually start to compare that with their behind the scenes, which is not always great. They're always like, why is this guy so successful? He has this and that, and he has a car, he has a beautiful house, he's successful. Why am I not like that? Little do you know, this other guy who's sharing all that stuff probably has a lot mentally happening. Maybe he has some letdowns or failures. That's why I'm big on not just sharing, the successes, but also maybe, some of the failures and stuff like that, if that makes sense. Just being authentic all around
I
is the
am.
big.
I am. I'm with you. You get me, identifying with you. All right, guys. That wraps it up. Joe, thank you for sharing those final words. You get me? I'm not sure if you want to like share any like last thing, and I'll let you finish off the
That's good.
episode
I think they got a
with the
lot of value.
podcast today.
Yeah, they got a lot of value. So I'm definitely pumped, for this relationship that we have. And hopefully everyone that watched this has, tons of value. Hopefully they're going to implement, take notes, stuff like that. But other than that, I think we dropped a lot of bombs, and, hopefully they'll take action, make an impact. And yeah, super grateful for this opportunity.
All right. Joe ended the episode. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you, everybody. Be great.
Thank you.